I've concluded the Star Wars trilogy or whatever it's called.
Oh, you watched the new one?
I did.
I'm so sorry, Brad. It's nonsense. That movie is ridiculous.
I kind of liked it. I mean, I didn't like. There's
the Emperor's back, and he has a fleet of like thousands of warships somehow. And he's also dead, but he's cloned. What?
Yeah. So, spoiler alert! Like, if you haven't seen this, just turn this off now. This is sort of like they took all the people you like, they killed them, and then they brought them back. But they're ghosts, but they're not back. And then
it was just such a rushed mess. You know, I'm such a huge Star Wars fan. You know, so I read the books and I read all the behind the scenes stuff. And you know, when you know like that, like there's all this. I'll just focus on like the first 3 minutes or 5 minutes of the movie, right? So there's a scene. It opens with Kylo Ren on a planet,
hacking
with
up
white
some like
trees and
looking
stuff.
things. Yeah.
Yep, just by himself apparently, sorted, you know, killing people, and then he arrives at a thing in the ground, pushes a rock over, and then pulls out this triangle thing, right? And then off we go. Then he's off, flying through some mess. And he goes to the planet where the Emperor is. All right, so that everything I just said, there's all this stuff that you need to know about that. For one thing, that planet was Mustafar. Mustafar is the planet where Anakin Skywalker fell into the lava and became Darth Vader back in Episode 3. That planet was completely covered in lava. But he built a castle there for himself. You saw it briefly in Rogue One, where that guy went to visit Darth Vader. That was that planet. And they did some kind of a terraforming thing where they actually brought Mustafar back to the way it was originally. So it's in the process of returning to be a normal planet. So all the steam and stuff and all that stuff is because that planet has changed. They also cut the scene down dramatically. Those guys were guards left over to protect this thing that Kylo Ren took, and there was a creature in the water you never saw that, you know, whatever, the final thing he had to get through. He was also there with an entire team of people. You could see a couple bodies in the background that were like stormtrooper types. And this Wayfinder thing that he finds has a whole story behind it and how it works and why there are two of them and what they do. And you just don't like, he just picks it up we go, you know, because the movie's already like 2.5 hours long. Like there's just too much stuff in it. Like this happens a lot with like TV shows where it's like suddenly, oh crap, we're going to end. We need to wrap everything up. And it you know, when you don't know what's coming, it's kind of, you know, done poorly. There's nothing else you can do about it. You know, Star Wars, the problem with these movies is they never plotted out an arc. So they made the first movie, like, what, whatever. And then they handed it off to this other guy and they said, to make a second movie, you can do whatever you want. And he did. And they were like, oh crap, you did a lot of stuff we weren't anticipating. Now we got to account for that. You know, he went off, like one of the little throwaway lines is like, Kylo Ren knows exactly who Ren's parents are. And he's like, they're nobodies. They were just, they were peasant farm or whatever they were. And then he runs into the Emperor in this movie. And the guy's like, her parents were not who you think they are. They had to reverse it because her being the Emperor's granddaughter, I guess, was never part of the story. They just invented it for this one. And it's just, the whole thing is nonsense. It's like, anyway, Star Wars, I love Star Wars. I hate what
So what's the relationship between Ben and whatever, Rey?
Yeah, they are not related. So Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, is the son of Princess Leia and Han Solo. Princess Leia was the sister of Luke Skywalker, right? So she is, I mean, she's technically a Skywalker, right? So she is Darth Vader's granddaughter, right? Sorry. I said she. I'm sorry, he.
You're asking the wrong person. If you're looking for validation here.
I'm sorry. Kylo Ren, is Darth Vader's grandson. Rey, the girl, is the granddaughter of the Emperor. Okay. So the Emperor and Darth Vader are not related. Like as family. So those two people are not related. They just are they both come from families that have strong force powers, I guess. Which, by the way, completely usurps the greatest thing about the second movie in the most recent trilogy, which is the ending, where there's this giant sense of hope in the galaxy, and you see this kid who's out there with his little broom, and he sucks it into his hand because he's got huge force powers. And the point of it was, you don't have to be from some kind of royal family, that you could be anybody. That was the whole point behind Rey, that she was not like from a royal, I'm using the word royal, but from a powerful family, that the force is something that could be in anybody, and anyone could be a hero or a whatever, you know. And they just reversed all that. You know, she is in fact from one of the, the most dominant, force powers that we've ever heard of. I mean, so it's like,
So, and then there's the guy who defected that wore the coat that at the end had the Force too.
yeah. Oh, yeah, the Finn guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Which, by the way, is in line with that whole thing. Like, and they poorly developed that, but this notion that this guy somehow had force powers and, knew things or whatever, that's actually more in keeping with that thing I was just saying. I mean, that someone like him is just he's a clone. I mean, he didn't even have parents, right? So he was somehow force sensitive, which is fine. I mean, that's actually fine, but
Force sensitive? Isn't that what they call it on the iPhone?
probably they probably pay like $1 to George Lucas every time they use it.
So, anyways, I liked it. The echo's back.
Right. I'm not wearing right.
You're not wearing your Leia muffs.
Yeah, let me put those back on. Sorry. So once again this morning, I was not ready for this call, but I should say I was not anticipating this call, despite the fact that it happens every day at the same time. But I got cleaned up earlier and everything, so it didn't matter. I was sitting here, so.
Yeah, anyway, so there's going to be another one too somehow.
Another
Star Wars movie?
Well, there are going to be more Star Wars movies. Like what they were trying to do here was wrap up the Skywalker saga.
Like, what are they going to do? Like Star Wars farming? Like the bad people are dead? The good people?
No. I mean, there's all kinds of stories. So consider like Rogue One. So Rogue One is a story that takes place between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, right?
Hold on,
and
I need to show a demonstration here.
Okay. Well, in 19 no, but I mean, in other words, back in the late 70s, early 80s, they made the original 3 Star Wars movies.
Right.
Those 3 movies sit in the middle of the 3 trilogies that we now have. So 20 years later, George Lucas made a prequel trilogy, which is the origin story for Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. So that story, that movie, that one-off movie takes place between the 2. But the thing that's so cool about it, one of the many things, it's one of the best Star Wars movies, is they hand off at the very end to the original movie in the series. So that sequence where the guy's trying to escape from Darth Vader and the ship, takes off.
Right.
The opening scene of Star Wars is that ship coming into frame and being attacked by Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. So, like, it literally just continues the story right there. If you look at like Star Wars as like this continuum, I mean, there's all these stories you could tell throughout the different time frames. Like one of the big mistakes that George Lucas made was he set up this notion of a Clone War that had happened in the past. So when he did the prequel story, you're like, well, okay, of course we're going to see the Clone Wars. But you don't. The Clone Wars happened between the second and third movie of the prequel trilogy. And in the opening of the third movie, the Clone Wars are winding down. And those 2 heroes have had all these adventures which happened off screen. And you're like, why wasn't that the story?
So all the movies that they're going to do were going to take place before the one that I just watched. Well,
technically speaking, the one that you just watched is the last one, not just that they've made so far, but in the timeline of the movies. It takes place last. So the thing that we've heard is this.
Unless there's some angry people like rise up and then they fight.
Oh yeah, no, obviously it could just keep going. But I mean the things, so 2 things. So first of all, there's a Clone Wars animated series that they made to cover all that stuff that they didn't cover in the movies, which is nonsense. But and then there are, I don't know if these are rumors or these are true, but I mean there are more Star Wars movies and series planned. And I think there's a TV series that will deal with some kind of like an Old Republic time frame, which is like really like before even the prequel series.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's all kind. It's a vast world. I mean, there's all kinds of stories you could tell.
Wow, I bet whoever has the merchandising rights to this made a whole bunch of money.
George Lucas does. Yeah. Well, not anymore. Disney does.
Yeah, no, I get it.
George Lucas, the smartest financial thing he ever did was I think it was the second. I guess it was right away. He was like, went to, I think it was 20th Century Fox, and was like, I'm keeping most of the money from this. And they were like, yeah, who cares? Because why would anyone want to buy
plastic
Star Wars merchandise? Yeah.
Anyways, so 10X.
Anyway, you liked it though. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like I'm not like deeply invested in the whole story. Like I know roughly like these are the bad people, these are the good people, and
my understanding of like, you know, a lot of people who are Star Wars fans will point to certain movies and say this is the best one, this is the best one. You know, like you can't do anything about this. Like the first one, you know, none of this other stuff wouldn't exist without the first one. The first one has to be the best movie. It is the best movie. A lot of people say Empire Strikes Back, the second one, you know, whatever. It's a great movie, but there have been some real dogs. You know, Return of the Jedi was terrible, really. I mean, really terrible. A lot of the prequel stuff was pretty bad. But Revenge of the Sith, the third one in the prequel series, I thought was one of the best ones. I think Rogue One, that one you and I saw in the theater, is one of the best ones, absolutely. And the second one in this most recent trilogy, the Rian Johnson one, The Last Jedi, is, in retrospect, absolutely one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. Even though there's some stupid shit in there that I can't stand, but that whole battle sequence with Luke, you know, basically dying to allow them to escape so that the fight can continue, I think it's an incredible sequence. It's really well done.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. It was.
This one was a mess, but yeah.
Here we are.
I will say, looks and sounds great on the Disney Channel or whatever that thing's called, Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be clear. That is the reason why I started watching these. And there's people are going to chastise me for that, but I was like, "Ooh, 4K HDR."
Yeah, no. I think it's the only place you can see them in 4K still.
Yeah.
You know what I really wished for? This really bugs me. Like each of the books that come out with these movies, and I think this dates back to the prequel trilogy too, has more information in it about the different stuff, and some of it is because they knew it wasn't going to make the movie and they want to expand on what you see in the movie. But I kind of wished for this movie in particular, even though it's so long, that they would do like a director's cut version of it, which is like where they add the stuff in that didn't make it to the movies. Because this thing could have done with a lot more explanation and exposition of what stuff was. Because there's all this stuff where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, like how's the Emperor still around? They don't really ever explain it.
No, they just said that he created the other people and that they weren't.
I know, but how did he survive? He died. he literally died. That was the conclusion of the original trilogy. So it's explained in the book. There is an explanation for it. And you couldn't have taken the 30 seconds. Anyone who confronts this, who sees him, would say, "How are you here? You died. You fell into a shaft and exploded."
Yeah, the interesting thing too, which I think you pointed out, is this movie was a long movie, like 2 hours and something around.
Yeah, it's
like,
a long movie.
You would think somebody from Disney would have looked at it like, all right, you know, if we had like 30 more minutes of content, we get 2 out of this. Like,
it is that big. It definitely could have been 2 movies. You know, so I don't know.
And that's like $1 billion decision probably for Star Wars. Maybe, lots of millions for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I was so excited when J.J. Abrams took over this thing. And the first one that he made, that Force Awakens movie, I was like, well, okay. You know, well, it's a remake of the first movie. Like it's just, and it's like, okay, I accept that. Like, it's fine. I'm just glad it's back. I love all the actors. The new characters are great. I thought, I'm like, okay. And it was fun seeing, Luke and Leia and Han, although Luke wasn't really in the first one per se. But man, they just, God, that's no plan for the future. It was so poorly done. Oh.
Well, here we are. Rounding out the tech, Microsoft announced that 10X is coming to single screens. Pretty much confirms that Neo is delayed till next year at minimum, and
which is interesting. So I'm literally what I was writing. The reason I said I wasn't ready for you, I'm doing this thing. I used to do this with Sinofsky. And Sinofsky used to write these like 3,000 to 10,000 posts, and you'd have to like read through and look for the part that said something. Like it was, and so I feel like at the time I provided a service. I mean, you couldn't understand what he was trying to say. It was just too much stuff. This post is the exact opposite. It's really concise. If anything, it's a little too short. He leaves a lot of things unsaid, and I don't want to blow away the whole thing here, but that I'm writing, because I mean, honestly, I'm taking it apart almost sentence by sentence. There are these very interesting let me just throw out a couple of these because I'm just interested in this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find the where does he say this? Let me just find the word. He says, look into the future. He says, we are committed to delivering meaningful innovation this holiday and the next. We're going to accelerate innovation in Windows 10 related to work, learn, and play. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. What?
Now, does that mean like 20H2 won't be a minor release? Is that what that means? And I think the answer, by the way, I think is no. I think he's specifically talking about 10X.
I think so too.
Because he uses that phrase, work, learn, and play again, specifically with Windows 10X 2 paragraphs later. So this holiday and the next, there's going to be like Windows 10X stuff. And they're going to pivot to single screen experiences, which, by the way, is nonsense. Any computing platform that displays to a screen is designed for a screen. Like, it's harder to make it work only on 2 screens. Like, that's nonsense. Like, taking out the dual screen requirement makes it easier to deliver this thing. I mean, the fact they're acting like they're moving quickly and shifting priorities based on, the current situation in the world. And it's like, not really, right? I mean, so yeah, he never says, by the way, but he talks about this holiday and the next, but he never says anything about the expected time frame for this, or let alone the devices that will run on it. And that is very interesting. So yeah, this is like Sinofsky. I think we need to really delve into what he's saying here. But unlike Sinofsky, he's saying too little, not too much. It's interesting.
Yep, we will. I would say we'll learn more at Build, but I don't really know if we are going to learn more at Build this year because of the changes that they have made. So,
I mean, they specifically said they're not going to talk about the future.
Yeah.
There are things at Build that I think will be very important and arguably are kind of about the future. For example, the shift to WinUI for all of the user experience stuff, which has 2 huge benefits. One, it brings those capabilities to developers that aren't going to use UWP, which is super important because there's a lot of those guys. And 2, it separates the innovations you can do with a UI. Like if you have an app that uses a particular control or whatever it is, it's not tied to a particular version of Windows 10 anymore. This has always been a huge problem, even for UWP, because, I'd have to make something up. Like whenever they added the menu system, like the, traditional Windows applications have menus, right? UWP didn't support that in the beginning, but at some point they added it. And if you use a menu in your UWP app, your app can only run on Windows 10 version. I don't know the version, but whatever, or higher. It won't work on older versions. But if you separate that stuff from the OS, that means you can deliver apps, UWP, WPF, it doesn't matter, React Native, that use that control on any supported version of Windows 10. So that's important, it's slightly futuristic, but so anyway, I'm looking forward to Build just for that stuff. I don't think we're going to see, well, I don't know, who knows? I mean, I don't know. They said no future stuff. Tell you what, we're not going to get at Build. It's a 90-minute Satya Nadella vision keynote, right? With built-in bathroom breaks.
Yoga stretching.
Yeah, exactly. Boy.
All right. Well, if that wraps up for today, folks, hopefully you enjoyed those spoilers, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow.
Spoilers for Star Wars and for